What is going on? What is Bernie up to now? Yeah.
Oh, too loud? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, keep rocking, Bernie. We love it. We love it. Give us another one.
All right, welcome to episode number 3 of Dano Says So. My guest today is Pete Chramiec. Most fans of 80s hardcore, but 80s American hardcore specifically, in my opinion, have a unique reverence for his band, Verbal Assault, and even for his work after that, Brain Like the Sound of Trains and things like that, because they had a habit of unexpectedly raising the bar. You would buy a new record, you would, listen to somebody's tape, and at least once or twice over the course of that thing, you're going to be caught off guard with the execution or the outside the box thinking, or even just the tone and attitude of the whole thing. I'm more than a little bit thrilled to get to pick your brain about that today. And so, without any further, thank you for doing this, Pete.
Oh, thank you. I'm just glad to talk to somebody. I'm locked in this house with 4 women for like 5 months now.
Yeah, I haven't seen a member of my band since February 29th. I'm supposedly an essential worker, so I go into work, but it's to the restaurant, it's back home. It's to the restaurant, it's back home.
Yeah.
And my cat appears sick of me,
Yeah, mine is not.
Okay. So the fanboy geek question, just to break it up and not go right at you about current events. Heel, I think, on the trial record.
Yes.
Is a freaky little piece of guitar set. It's got, I think it's got an elongated pick slide, and then this just epic climb in terms of the riffing, right?
Yeah.
It's a signature sound. It's a thing a lot of guitar players that I know aspire to. What were you playing? How'd you make it happen? How'd you get that sound on the record?
I kind of lucked into it, and then never changed. I had a good Marshall and Les Paul at the time, and then Tom Gorman, who was in Verbal Assault for a while and later played in the band Belly, had just bought a Mesa Boogie. And I went down to DC. I would just always go down to DC. My grandmother lived like a couple miles from Discord House. So any excuse I had to go down there, I would just go down there and check in with all the DC folks. And I was at the Dag Nasty House at the time in Arlington, and Ryan Baker was like, "Hey, you want to buy this stereo chorus?" And it was like one of those like rack mount, things. And I had seen him, the shows we had played with him, like the year up to that, he had it and had all these like cool long light bars. And I would just like stare at the light bars and was just like, "What the fuck is that?" And he's like, "Oh, you want to buy it?" And we chatted, and he's like, "Yeah, I used it on Can I Say?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah,
I'd be okay.
I'd be a little interested in that,
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, $125. I bought the thing, and got back to Newport, and me and Tom were in the practice space, and I was like, "Dude, I got this thing off Brian Baker. Let's fucking plug it in." And like I plugged it into the Marshall. It sounded cool. It sounded kind of Brian Bakery, and then I was like, "Dude, there's a second output. Plug it into your amp." And we did, and it was the. I remember I started playing Running, and as soon as I hit the first chord, like both his and my face just like was like my face was like, "Holy shit! I just fucking found the ring in the cave." And Tom, like the way I saw Tom's face go like, "Holy shit! He just found the ring in the cave," and then he was like, "Oh fuck! I want the ring. And so it was like, yeah. And then it really was like the ring, because I couldn't fucking turn the thing off, because it wasn't verbal assault after that. So I had to play out of this stupid stereo chorus with 2 amps for the rest of verbal assault.
Two things occurred to me right there that confirmed some suspicions for me. I always wondered whether Brian Baker figured in the mix there somehow.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so the band that I'm in now played with Tagnaski at our second show, right?
Those look fun.
It was cool. It was very cool, and he was very gracious about the band, which even at 428 years old made me giggle, you know.
Yeah.
But 2 things happened. They had someone in their crew do their sound checking and do their levels and everything else, right? And his amp sounded great. It fired up. Second, he got up there and started fucking with his amp. It was a time machine. I get immediate chills. There's some people that just have a gift, you know.
Yeah, I'm notice. I mean, I've been just. I mean, I kind of put the guitar down for almost 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of recently got it. I had kids, was building our first house.
You're doing it for me, but I was going to say, you realize people are going to want me to ask why.
Yeah, and it's not that complicated. It's like I've literally like been on like a 25-year like overworked, just like kind of the building the first house. All my shit was in storage. Well, actually, it goes back even more than that. When I first moved to Olympia, right when I moved out, I was playing with William Goldsmith, who was in Sunny Day Real Estate, and we were playing a lot, and had like a dozen songs recorded. Just didn't have a singer, and then that sort of just lost steam as I got more and more into starting my own business and then building my own house. I was just like, there's no time, and he moved away, and so for literally 20 years, most of my shit was locked away up in his basement in this like weird Sunny Day Real Estate, Foo Fighters, and my shit time vault. And finally, about 5 years ago, I was like, I could really use my shit, and got in and got most of it out, and yeah, so most like all my like everything but my electric guitar was up in this like time vault, and I didn't really care because I built our first house, had kids. My first kid was always knocking the guitar over, so I just put it away one day, and she also hated when I would play. I thought it was going to be like, oh, I'm going to have time to just like hang out with the kid and play guitar, and as soon as I would play, she'd see me like drift off to like a faraway place, and she'd be like, get back here with, you know,
right.
Me. And so it just, and I was just fucking, you know, every day I was fucking exhausted from, you know, building my own house, building other houses.
Well, it's no small endeavor, and from what I've grasped of it, we'll talk about it later. I don't doubt that it's similarly rewarding, if not more so. It's just a different thing.
Yeah, if I drank a beer, then I'd start telling you about the parallels of like hardcore band touring with running a small construction company. It's pretty much the same thing. Like see the same 4 dudes every day, like talk about the same shit. Like
did you just make fun of my assertion, sir?
Yeah. Where were we before that? So guitar. Yeah. So I just literally, and then I just had a rough couple of years with my parents, kind of at their last couple of years, on top of working and a new baby, and like there wasn't like much creative, like magical space. If I sat down with a guitar, it was just like, and the one thing I've learned from those 20 years is like, I'm just not like a person that has to play guitar by himself in a room. Like if I don't have a band, fuck it. You know, I'm just like, I'm not that type of musician. Like for me, the juice is like being in a band, and I didn't have a band. So I
have a friend who's a very disciplined writer, and he holds himself to X number of words a day. And I mean, I'm talking, he's immersed in writing to the point where he'd been in commercial graphics for years and years and years, got out, bought an independent bookstore, you know, just shortly before the quarantine, everything else, still writes thousands and thousands of words a day. Hates me because he feels that I can write, and that I can write with some skill. I can leave it sit indefinitely, and the first time I can pick it up is at 1 a.m. drunk, and it might be the best stuff I've done in months.
That's very similar to me. Like as
Yeah.
soon as I pick up a guitar, it's like, oh, like the longer I stay away, the better it is. But 20 years was a bit long. Yeah.
The longest I ever took off was 9 years, and there was a commemoration of the first label I was on, and I went and I did a set with an old band of mine, and the thing that made me get back on the mic, and I think a lot of people hope would something similar would happen, and they'd get to see you play again, was that the crowd had gray hair. Was that I was looking out and they weren't Martians. My thinking was, I'm so goddamn old, this can't be my world anymore. And I was like, no, man, they're generational groups.
Yeah.
And the conversations I had that weekend were incredibly fun.
Yeah.
I mean, do you consider it at all? Do you toy with it?
Yeah, there was serious toying very recently with seeing if Verbal Assault was still any good.
Oh yeah, people would hate that.
Yeah, for the first time, we weren't gonna. I can't keep secrets. Yeah, for the first time in a long time, Chris was like, "Fuck, maybe we should do that." We were thinking like the run up to the election, it kind of like, what could we contribute, and maybe that was it. If we could inspire 200 old men to.
And the election year provides it a unique context that makes it a little bit different than some of the money grabs that inspire other reunions. I completely grasp where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. So we did more than entertain it. I actually had a ticket to go out there in March, right when everything got shut down. I was supposed to be in Rhode Island, just for a practice session to see. My thing was like, let's give it a 10 day. I'll come out for 10 days, see if we still are good. I don't want to do it if we didn't still.
The venues will not be there by election day, but
yeah,
who knows what the world looks like in 2021?
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, so I relearned all the songs. Chris, Doug, and Dylan were actually practicing a bunch, and just because Chris had the hardest job. He hasn't been doing the trial scream for 30 years, but I heard a couple tapes, and it was pretty much same old.
When you and I were active musicians at the same time, he was my Verbal Assault pen pal.
Yeah, of course.
So please, if you remember, tell him I said hi.
Okay, I will. Yeah, he was a pen pal beast.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're like Verbal Assault we were very lucky, but it was also that like hard work makes your luck kind of thing. Because I was a beast in like setting up tours and stuff, and Chris would just answer every letter and do every mail order thing, and so it was just the two of us were just a good team in that regard.
And that's something that completely escapes the understanding of the current generation. Is the amount of work that went into analog networking?
Yeah. It didn't it wasn't even work though. You're just so happy to do it,
Well, the thing I've thought about a lot, and you look at you're building houses, you're a father, you have a very real domestic agenda and responsibility. It may not have been work, but nearly impossible to fit into a truly adult life. I play with musicians now who are fathers, who are business owners, things like that. And I mean, touring now would be 10 days, not 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, which would be fine. That'd be fun. Yeah.
So talking about the election year and that having provided a potential window for Verbal Assault allows me to swing to something that was fun. I think I told you I'm going to intro this whole interview with one of your Bernie videos.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Other than the hair and the glasses, how exactly does that happen?
You just got to work with what God gives you.
There you go.
I last 2016, I was Bernie for Halloween, and it was a hit. Like old liberal ladies at the co-op knew me just from my Facebook Bernie photos, and I became not very popular, but it became a thing. People just wouldn't shut up about it. so when it was time to vote in the primaries, I was like, fuck it, I'll dig out the Bernie costume just to go down and vote. And I was like, maybe something will happen. I went to the food trucks. I figured like a riot would break out, and everyone was just kind of like, is this the weird old guy with an outfit on and carrying a T-square and old 80s like political books? And like no one said anything. I was just like, well, that didn't quite work. And then I just came home, and my neighbor saw me, and she's like, and just yelling across the driveway. She's like, we just came up with a video. I was like, I'll do like a Sasquatch video walking through the woods. Just start filming. And then, so that was the first one where I was walking through the woods. It's supposed to be Sasquatch. And then we did a bunch of like Rocky exercising in the woods ones. And then we did a second session the next day.
It was funny. I mean, very few people are going to have in your arsenal what you had for the one I did, which is it's all well and good to be able to do Bernie and to be fun and trip over yourself and to show some affection and for a progressive candidate.
Yeah.
But when the guitar chimes in on the one that I used, a lot of old fuckers got a sense of chill, got a hairs on the neck thing.
There was at least 300 of you just like, ooh.
Yeah. It was nice. I appreciated it.
Yeah. Felt a little gratuitous, but fuck it.
See, you got to get past that shit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really do. I like run a business. I like never advertise. I'm like, oh, it seems obnoxious. And just some basic things I could probably be doing better, but
we're running into the divide between us, artist versus showman.
Yeah.
So, on the subject of Bernie, may I take that to mean that at least during primary season, that was your guy?
Oh fuck yeah! I've been crazy for Bernie since like the late '80s when we would play in Burlington. His wife had set up a little like European style youth center, and that's where all the punk bands would play in Burlington. And I remember the first time we played, we got paid like more than we should have, and then we also got paid in Ben and Jerry's reject ice cream. And we were mostly vegan, but I had just had mono the previous like few months and was like so fucking skinny. Like the doctor earlier that month had been like, dude, you need to eat some, like, you need to fatten up. You're like,
right.
And I had ice cream a couple of times that summer just on doctor's orders. And then driving away from Burlington with the melting cookie dough ice cream with too much cookie dough was just like, fucking Bernie Sanders is all right. But yeah, his wife set it up, and it was just, we'd gone to Europe twice by then, and we're like, holy shit, this is like a little European outpost. And right. The kids were like, yeah, we have like a socialist mayor. And I was like, huh. And so and then when he was like, I think through like the 90s, he was on that, that kind of liberal radio, I forget what it was called, Radio America.
The one that Garofalo was involved in, and I think some of the Young Turks people.
He would always do a guest. He would always do a guest spot, and he was just this like, he was exactly the same. He was just like all the same shit he says today. He would just go off on, and I was just like, this guy's amazing. And so and everything he's done lately is.
So do you think he got jobs for against Clinton, and now do you think the DNC? You think that there's truly some nasty dealings there? Some
chicanery.
Yeah.
I suspect there might be some hijinks might be afoot. Yeah, I mean, of fucking course he did. I mean, like a socialist Jewish guy that like has no filter. Of course he got fucking. It seemed
more obvious and even more troubling the first time around. It seemed very organized as opposed to just a general leaning of the party against him.
Yeah. It makes me wonder about myself because I'm kind of like, well, yeah, of fucking course he got screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you expect with, American political dynasties? But also, I mean, of course I'm furious and like, I hope all of them pay a dear cost for doing it. But he's moved the needle so far. It's like when it happened this time, the timing was so weird this time with the pandemic.
He also seemed, to my eye, and what the hell do I know, but he seemed more resigned to it this time.
Yeah, that last debate, he really sucked at. And did you watch the last debate he did with Biden? And he just kept trying to trick Biden into saying something wrong. It was just like, it was actually it was a really bad performance. And I was just kind of disheartened, and I was like, oh.
Right.
So when he suspended the campaign, I wasn't surprised. I was miserable, but you can tell he genuinely believes whatever it takes to stop Trump. I mean, he with Hillary quickly closed ranks, and so yeah, for being a radical Bernie supporter, I expected all the dirty politics, and I mean, it's the Democratic machine is,
that's kind of where I'm funneling to next. Is do you still have any faith in the two-party system? If you ever did, I don't know.
No, but it's just the constant eating the slightly better tasting, shit. Yeah, I mean, I listened to the first little bit of the Kevin interview, and when you mentioned the Howard Dean scream, yeah, but I always go back to the Howard Dean scream. I'm like, right. That was a disqualifying moment. And one of the radio stations always plays it up here, and I'm always just like, how is that disqualifying compared to
current context? It's beyond me.
Yeah. So yeah, Bernie, he's genuinely moved the fucking debate so far back in the right direction, and just the part of his thing about being, it has to be an actual movement, and everything he's done has been in support of that movement. I feel like he's really just been laying the groundwork for the movement that has to come, and it's.
He'll be aged out, in my opinion, in another 4 years. But yeah. he makes the AOCs, even the Elizabeth Warrens, even some of the other left of center candidates more possible, or at least more digestible to the country as a whole.
AOC was a fucking bartender and was, you know the story. It's incredible. It honestly makes me wonder, what am I just doing building houses? There's a political component to the stuff I do.
I suspected as much, and you're opening that door perfectly. So let's go ahead and get into bicycle home building. Okay.
Yeah, that's more interesting than you talking about.
Well, I don't know about that, but you set it up, you teed it up perfectly.
Yeah. So I build super energy efficient green houses, kind of net zero houses. My house is full net zero. We make more energy than we use.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we have one tiny little ductless heat pump to heat this large house. It's just it's so super insulated, it doesn't really need heat or cooling. It's bizarre.
How did you happen into this? Where does your background in it come from? And is it as complicated as it sounds?
So when I moved back to Olympia, I went back to Evergreen State College and did the whole organic agriculture program. I thought I was heading in that direction. I was just burnt out on touring and kind of looking for something a little more tangible and real, for me. Pretty quickly, within a month, I was like, oh, I'm going to go back to construction when I'm done with this. Because it was quick. As soon as there was divvying up tasks in the farming program, I was like, you guys shovel the shit, I'll go repair the roof on the shed. And
okay.
And then my first job out of college was building a little cabin for my farming professor's wife, who had taken over their organic farm. And then I quickly fell in with this really cool kind of radical hippie green builder dude, Tibor Brewer. He and JT ran this great little construction company, and JT now is one of my best friends, my neighbor, built his house. But Tibor was, at the time, he was the main green builder in town, and He, I mean, he really was just a mentor and taught me everything he knew, and even at the end, kind of the businessy stuff, which was very, very generous.
Would you be comfortable sending some of the photos of some of the builds, some of the homes? I remember when I saw them saw I believe it was your place online, and I think I might have even given you a little bit of grief about it because it was just gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you.
In its roundabout non-punk rock way, I think it'd probably be pretty exciting or inspiring to people. So I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll get those to you. So yeah, then I was out on my own in like, I can't remember, 1999-ish. Just kind of building one house at a time, and just trying to be as kind of environmentally conscious as possible. And then, can't remember what year, but this, I read this article, New York Times, about these German houses that it took the equivalent of a hair dryer to heat them. And it was called the Passive House movement, and it's a kind of German methodology that they kind of super analyze every house that's being built, and they can compute how I should be better at boiling this down. They're basically like analyzing the house by figuring out how much sun's hitting each window, how much the trees are shading
A giant math problem.
each window. Yeah, the computer program is just a monster spreadsheet where just everything cross-references, all the windows cross-reference with the solar gain and the house shading. And so they're able to figure out how much insulation you need for that project to get it down to a tiny, tiny energy level so that basically a small hairdryer could heat the house.
That's craziness.
And the goal is to use as little energy as possible, and it's based on an equation of like how many people there are going to be. I can't remember what year in the future it is, and then how much energy there will be allotted to each household. Mm-hmm. So it's this very kind of radical idea where like you have to meet a future energy demand based on how much pollution has to be cut back. It's pretty amazing. It's also very, very German, which makes it a tough sell in America because you really have to like buckle down and microanalyze all these little things. But I saw that article and I sent it to one of my green building buddies in Seattle, Dan Whitmore, and I was like, dude, this is what we should be doing. And he quickly he did the first passive house training in the US. This really, really cool German woman, Katrine Klingenberg, moved over, and I mean and she was kind of, I mean, she's like the Ian Mackay of the green building movement. Like she just, quickly drummed up this really huge interesting network.
What's occurring to me is from a dead stop, how did you finance this initially? Or am I grossly misunderstanding what it really took?
Oh, I did the training, that was a few $1,000. And then you're on your own. You just have to meet the standard for the houses you do to get certified.
And then, so this self-generated, self-owned or partnered business, that's your sole source of income?
Yeah. Yep.
A purpose-driven life right there.
Yeah. And it's usually just me and 3 to 4, sometimes 5 carpenters. It might boost up. We'll probably start doing 2 houses at a time. But that's about the extent of my ambitions. Is I don't want to turn into a big company. I'm not that sort of business-minded person. And
would you have the kind of freedom if the 6 strings came calling to actually do it?
I could. Yeah, I have some really good guys now that could run the show for a little bit.
Okay.
And then the passive house thing it's kind of blown up. It's become a bigger thing. It's all these like very driven, environmental minded, smart architects and engineers and builders, and it's come along. It's come a very long way in a pretty short time.
I mean, it's a really appealing aesthetic, and it looks like it's done from a mindset that sits outside of most people's current reality, which is that the homes we've grown up in and the way we're used to living isn't sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's exactly the point. And the building sector is a huge contributor to greenhouse gas. So there's all these like super smart dudes figuring out every little way to get the carbon out of the buildings. And
So I have this thing on each interview. I try to hit right at 30 minutes, right?
yeah, good luck.
But I don't keep the timer. I do it just vaguely try to remember what time we started.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure that I touched on the points and that I gave voice to what the people wanted to talk to. Martin and I ended up coming in at 30 minutes and 30 seconds this morning.
Really?
Which I don't know until after I've turned it to an MP4. So that said, and I don't know why I felt it necessary to share the behind the curtain thing with you, I was able to explore the things that I really wanted to talk to you about, and I thank you for that. Is there anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
Not that I can think of.
Always an unfair question, and every family kid ever asked it.
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank, but
Well, then I was unfair to ask you.
yeah. Then just do it. So here's my thoughts on your Zoomcast.
Sure.
Is just keeping it short. I think is brilliant, and just have just keep calling these people back.
Right.
Like, just don't do a one and done. Like, freaking keep going. Well,
like you do realize that means you just committed yourself to doing another one at some point.
Yeah. We next time. Yeah, next time we'll talk interesting family history, both of us. And,
Jesus, we didn't get there.
If there's no time, 30 minutes.
Yeah, I appreciate you respecting that. So you and I will do the next one sooner than planned.
Yeah.
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 All right,
but how many times can you listen to Vic Bondi? Probably more than once.
Bondi was amazing. The only real interruption in his running trend of thought was his dog barking.
Yeah. I made the children take the dog and go away for an hour.
Fair enough. Well, listen, Pete Chramiec, immense thanks. I sent out, I think, 11 requests right off the bat, and all 11 came in. Yours was one of the big fuck yes moments. So thank you.
I was totally excited. You should be doing something exactly like this. I really
appreciate it.
Yeah.